Hello again to all the participants of this Innovation Day, and thank you for joining us. And also thank you, Dr. Saha, for the inspiring story that you've shared with us. I think it's very clear that we have a big theme right now in the world that's about change and resilience. And so I think innovation is an apt way for us to think about this. Even though innovation is a tricky word these days, it has taken on so many different meanings and nuances since it's entered our current vernacular. Sometimes people refer to innovation as a new invention or a new product. Other times people attribute it to a non-scientific way of advancing developments. I have spent well over a decade, potentially close to 2 decades, meddling in the matter of innovation and resulting transformations. And I believe innovation is really about impact. It's about thinking about how many people we can actually impact. It's thinking about how easily we can bring efficiency to the way that we bring impact. It can be also about thinking about how feasible it is for us to scale this impact. But the truth is, no matter what we call it, when we approach this thing that we like to call innovation, what we are doing is building resilience. And the world is changing at an exponential rate, and we've seen this through the pandemic, but we've also seen it with technology and the changing political climate. And what we really must do is to learn to become agile, to sort of learn to harness this change into a meaningful impact. And so let me just address a few myths that surround this word innovation so that we can get ahead and be clear about the impact of what we're trying to do. So there is a myth that innovation is about technology, when in fact, technology is only the enabler of the innovation that people have come up with. There's also a myth that innovation always needs to be disruptive. And in fact, most innovation can be categorized as incremental innovation, which means you're innovating at a slower pace potentially, or in a small amount, what's already existing. There's also a myth that innovation happens rapidly and with unanimous support immediately. But in reality, there's plenty of experimentation that happens ahead of wide adoption. And, you know, these myths leads to mistaken investments priorities. It leads to the underappreciation of the potential efforts that people are putting into developing new solutions. It leads to abandoning good ideas due to a lack of good executional abilities, for example. And so I believe that what we call innovation could use a more nurturing environment that will let it grow and not be limited by what others label it as. MSF is a movement that demands innovation. Oftentimes it's because in MSF and a lot of our missions, we are under-resourced, or we are in a critical position where solutions must come at a very fast pace. So you see that the doctors, logisticians, advocacy teams, and medical coordinators, anybody on the team actually, have had to, it was almost an intrinsic need to identify what the field needs, what hasn't been addressed, and how to create and develop new and temporary solutions to fill that gap. And so you see that MSF is an institution that has always been working hand to hand with innovation or innovation environments. Where MSF can grow, though, is in its ability to scale such efforts, to recognize what we are addressing so we can select how we want to address these opportunities, and to create a common language, like a common history, which will help us scale these initiatives further and beyond the microcosms of MSF, because having that common language and common history can help us communicate faster, develop the ideas together, and be more collaborative as we address the similar issues potentially, or similar methodologies. So Scientific Days, this platform today, it's a platform for such an effort to see the light of day and build on the development of scale. What we can learn from the selected projects isn't just about the design of the final solution. We can also learn from its methodologies, the partnerships that it's developed, and its narrative, because it's very important for us to learn how to share these stories in a relevant way and to be understood by the myriad of stakeholders who have varying depths or specialties and expertise. Especially when we talk about the medical field, everybody's got their very long T, which is the strength of their expertise. But it is also important for us to learn to listen, to suspend our inner cynic and suspend sort of our disbelief so that we can recognize that big insight within that story. What is that big effort? What is the big idea behind it that's really pushing this effort forward? We should contemplate what it takes to identify such a need, to tirelessly trial at different solutions at it, and to think about the courage it took to model such a change in a system that potentially may not always be as flexible and agile as we think. And all of this effort is culminating into changes that we may actually, may be building our potential future. So with this, I would like to turn our attention to the projects that can shape our dialogue about preparing for uncertainty and building resilience. And good luck to everybody.